time again and again, and I've made photocopies and always had the copy at hand, even in my car. And I also had the masks as well as the hats and coats. I have also had redundant of those coats and so forth. And I always had some spare as available and try to distribute if it became necessary. I will not share with you anymore, but this time I was not able to distribute those spare items to the others. It was most unfortunate. Thank you.
Now, you have experienced very desperate situation that your life was threatened, and your comments are heard from this perspective. Regarding evacuation, what was conducted? 21,000 households were subject to a questionnaire for us to investigate. We want to clarify what had occurred, and that will be reflected in the final report. So I would like to ask for your kind understanding on this matter. Next, I'd like to invite the following comment. The gentleman in the black jacket, please, toward the back side of the room. Now, first of all, thank you very much for the Commission members to have this dialogue with the citizens of the Okuma town. Thank you very much indeed. From with the NAIIC Commission and with the Okuma municipal government and the disaster prevention people were engaged in a conversation. And you have discussed the topic of the safety myth. Why have we been subject to this safety myth of TEPCO? I think that was a major topic discussed today. And I believe that on the part of the citizens, for decades, TEPCO has been preaching to us that this is safe. We have been told over and over again. As Mr. Watanabe has mentioned, we have been brainwashed by them over the years. Now, the NAIIC, the government investigation committee has also put forth their report. And energy density is very high for this nuclear power plant. And if an accident is to occur, an unprecedented major disaster will occur, which has never been experienced by mankind before. And that is the possibility of the nuclear power plant. But it's very difficult to put this into words. And there is a possibility that there could be a possibility where man cannot control the nuclear power plant. And this is the prevailing view now. So we have to squarely understand, and we should have put forth to the citizens that there is a possibility that nuclear power plant cannot be controlled by people. And that's the reason why 3/11, with the mega quake, the disaster has occurred. The government currently is working very hard to restart the Oi nuclear power plant. They're trying to accelerate the process. However, from our part, it is perplexing, and we want them to stop immediately. That is the prevailing view here amongst our citizens in terms of NAIIC. I hope that you will elucidate the information one after another, the information that we would like to see made open, and to disclose this to the government. And by so doing, I hope that the restart of the nuclear power plant will not take place, which is the wrong way forward. And I would like to ask for your support in this regard. Now, regarding the restart of the nuclear power plants, currently we are in a fledgling stage in terms of natural energy, as well, for example, solar, geothermal as biomass, and wind power. I think we should place value on these alternative natural resources, which is in the fledgling stage. We have to nurture this technology. Programs will be required to nurture such natural resources. And each one of the citizens of Japan must work very hard to conserve energy. And the remaining energy, the excess energy, should be made available to the industry. By so doing, as we can see in the example of cool bits, I believe that the shortage of energy can be overcome with all our efforts. So please, I urge you not to go in the wrong direction. And tax and social security must be reformed in an integrated manner. There is no time to waste here. And this is being called for. And if the government is to say that there is no time to waste in terms of restarting nuclear power plant operation, that would be a problem for all of us. And therefore, I urge the people of NAIC to bear this in mind and continue your work. And the Okuma, Fukushima, the nuclear power plant in Okuma, the current state thereof, there is the hydrogen explosion, and Unit 4 is in a precarious, very unstable situation. After the earthquake, the structure has been rebuilt, but Unit 4 could be destroyed once again if there were to be another earthquake, and the impact will be felt by the Tokyo citizens as well. Tokyo citizens will have to evacuate as well. That is the situation of the nuclear power plant. And we are living in Aizu, Wakamatsu, and Koriyama, and other places outside of Okuma now. So we are living in dispersed areas, and this is not something that is easy to persevere. We have been dispersed, and this is like being isolated from our community to forced to live. And this is something that is difficult to express in words. It is a significant ordeal for all of us. And therefore, I hope that you will bear this in mind as well. Please make sure that information will be made available to citizens, and without fail, everything must be disclosed. Not only for Okuma, but for Namiya and Tomioka and all the other areas that have been affected. We are all in a situation, Futaba, Tomioka as well, and Naruha. So please make sure that this information will be made available to everyone.
Thank you so much for your valuable comment. There was a safety myth on the part of the government. As NAIC, we would like to again elucidate that as well. Regarding your comment, we would like to take your comment to our heart and carry out the investigation. I would like to solicit your understanding. Any other comments, please? To my right, on the upper rows, the person in gray suit, in a gray suit. Oops, sorry. In the black suit. From Ogami. I used to live in the administrative unit. My name is Aoyama. At the outset, there is a legislator from our national legislature, so I have a question to you regarding we as victims. Are we still the people of Japan? Mr. Yoshino, the member of the parliament, please answer. Regarding your comment, we regard it as a comment to the NAIC. It's such an important issue. At the moment, we are the victims of the accident, live in temporary shelters or in a rented housing. That's where we have been accommodated. In the temporary shelter, it's just a 4.5 joules. There are just 2 rooms, and several people are accommodated in this temporary shelter with just 2 rooms in a very narrow area. To use a bad expression, we are more or less like chicken housed in a very small place, very narrow area, laying eggs. So we are comparable to those chicken, and we are forced to live our lives in this small space. Is this space really for human beings? And regarding the rented housing, the community we used to live in is all gone. We don't even know where we can find who. There's private information protection law, and we don't have access to that information because of that law. From the town, it's difficult to get information from the town. We used to be very close to each other, saying hello and hi, and we don't even know where they are now. The community, there has been a real disconnect of the community. We feel like ourselves like Taro Urashima, a figure in the old Japanese legend, and we don't really know how many more years we have to live in this kind of an environment. For the members of the NAIC, I would like you to really understand this point. This led me to ask that previous question, are we still the people of Japan? Owaguku that's the unit, the administrative unit, and this is 3 kilometers away from the nuclear power plant as administrative unit. 2010, March 7th, that's a Sunday. And each year, on the first Sunday of March, the administrative unit, the Congress has all been held. On the Sunday, March 7th, again, the Congress was held. As soon as it was over, and it's customary, and the PR group from TEPCO showed up and gave us explanation about the situation concerning TEPCO. To say it flatly, this is really, it's more like an apple polishing. They give us information, but it's really an apple polishing. And then there was the issue of earthquake in 2010, March 7th. I think it was about 11:10 in terms of time. TEPCO, Fukushima NAIIC nuclear power plant, earthquake. It's about the level, if it's level 6 or 7, according to Japanese scale, then the power plant could withstand at least that scale of earthquake. That's what they said. And because of that, if it's 6 or 7, level 6 or 7, then human being cannot keep standing. It's awful. Above level 5 earthquake, a human being cannot keep standing. So that must also cause a huge tsunami. And then facilities can withstand that scale of earthquake. The sea level, above 3 or 4 meters, there are facilities of nuclear power plant. Can they still withstand this level of earthquake? And TEPCO officials said that yes, they could the power plant could withstand that scale of the earthquake. So feel stay at ease. That's what they said. So we said that's not your personal opinion, but is that the company TEPCO's answer? Is that right? I asked once again. That was not their personal comment, but TEPCO's view. And then they said, yes, that's the TEPCO's view. So this is not a natural disaster. This is a human error. This is a disaster caused by human error. So when an accident like this occurs, this is what I've been feeling or thinking for all along. The government introduced nuclear power plant as a national policy, and with the safety myth, there has been mind control exercised by TEPCO. TEPCO caused this accident, and nobody is held accountable. Nobody is held accountable. This is indeed frustrating. Frustrating. It's more than frustrating. I want somebody to really take full responsibility. Under the circumstances, the restarting of a nuclear power plant is now talked about. I really can't see what they are thinking.
So the responsibility, where the responsibility lies, should be made very clear. So how long, how many years more should we stay in this difficult situation? So I would like to ask the members of the parliament. They tell me always, and they make the statements in the National Diet sessions, that they have come to the affected areas on the ground and actually witnessed what is happening. But if you could stay on for just 1 week at least, live with us, you should fully understand the full force of the reality. And that is what I would very much like to ask you to do so. Thank you. That's all. Thank you very much. That you have lost the very foundation of your livelihood that has been destroyed. Thank you very much for your valuable input. That was indeed the role of voice from the community. Thank you. Any comments from the members? No? Then any other comments or viewpoints from the floor? Then the gentleman in the white windbreaker, please. I am from Nogami Administrative Unit. My name is Shima, from the nuclear power plant. It's around 6 kilometers to 9 kilometers zone. That is the Nogami, the #1 district. And what I would like to make suggestion is that at the earliest time possible, if NAIIC could make recommendation to the national government in rethinking about the zoning. The Okuma town, different from the other communities, we have the site of the accident here. So it happened that high dose levels and low dose levels, because of the wind, the blowing, there has been the patchy situation. And very simplistically, the dose levels, that would be the only basis to decide the zoning. But the Okuma town, we had the nuclear power plant which has melted down. And nothing has been brought under control yet. And in the huge premises, there is a huge volume of contaminated water that being stored. And also there are still a huge amount of debris remaining there. And also because of remediation, the contaminants are to be carried over to the intermediate storage place. There are 4 locations within the county. That is what is being discussed right now. And especially for Okuma town, the largest size of the intermediate storage location is to be placed. But just using the dose levels for the zoning purpose is meaningless, because there will be future impacts. At least for 10 kilometers zone, I don't think you can change the zoning. So if you are to think about the Area 3, where residents will face difficulty in returning for a long time, there will be no water supply. There's no hospital. There's no municipal office, no shops, nothing is there. And the national government is trying to do everything in reverse. So try to lift for Area 1 the evacuation orders, which are ready to be lifted, and then to try to have the measures being instituted, and then say that those levels are now lower, and ask the residents to make the decision to go back. That should be the proper sequence. So if you could, as quickly as possible, make such a recommendation to the national government, please, from NAIC. Thank you.
Now, decontamination issue was mentioned. Where the dose is high, the life should be restored. The life environment should be restored. Thank you very much for that valuable comment. I'd like to take the next question. I'm from Okuba, from the nuclear power plant. I'm living within the 3-kilometer radius, and my name is Ishii. Now, I have been listening to members of NAIC now in this meeting. Currently, the current situation should be taken into consideration. The nuclear power plant in Japan, there are 50 units or so. And in our town, from about the 1950s, we have had the construction begin. And in March, the Unit 1 had the 40th anniversary. We were making preparations for the 40th anniversary for Unit 1, but unfortunately, because of the accident, it could not be done. But in terms of nuclear power generation, this has been a national policy over the years. The national government is controlling and managing and continue the power generation for 30 years, 40 years, in the 30s, 40s, and 50s. 50s, 60s, and 70s, it has been making significant contributions to the economic growth of Japan. However, the unexpected, well, we should not use the word unexpected, but the accident occurred. And magnitude 9.2 earthquake occurred, which was unprecedented, and unprecedented tsunami occurred. And we have found ourselves in this current situation. But we cannot change the fact that it has occurred. So, and the after measures are very important. The Commission members, we are counting on you for your support. We would like you to bring to bear your knowledge and find the way forward. The measures to be implemented should be identified. But in reality, as mentioned, reported by the media, we do understand the current state of the nuclear power plant. Okuma Town citizens feel that, as mentioned by the mayor, for 40 years, if there was a problem in the nuclear power plant, 10 years or 20 years after operation, I'm sure that the non-conformance should have occurred. And in fact, there have been some issues, some problems, some non-conformance. But it has been operating for nearly 50 years. It has already been operating for 40 years, half a century. Now, let's take the automobile for an example. There are problems relating to a car, but measures are implemented. And after inspection, the car continues to be driven. And in the case of nuclear power plant, if there was no problem, major problem, it is nuclear power plant. I'm sure that there were some issues, non-conformance, but according to the guidance and control of the government, regular inspections have been made and operations have continued. But with the earthquake disaster, which could not have been expected, has caused this disaster. So we have to restore this going forward, which means that around the nuclear power plant, there are many people gathering together and discussing this issue. But the situation on the ground is not going to be recovered by these discussions. The nuclear power plant accident has occurred, and Mr. Yoshida, head of the plant, also said that he thought that he was going to lose his life. The same for everyone. When there was the explosion, according to people who were nearby, people felt that it's the end of their life, and fathers thought that they would not be able to go home. Children were encouraged to live safely with the mothers. So it was a life and death situation for people working there. And at that time, the NISA high official said that while he is a life and death situation, he said that he had gone back to his office and having a wonderful time with his girlfriend. This has been reported. So this is outrageous. And now I understand that he is going to be sent to Fukushima office thereafter. This is like ridiculing the people of Fukushima. So what I'm trying to say is the following. We find ourselves in this state, and we want to make sure that in order to put everything under control, we have to think of ways that are necessary to place this under control. And Okuma, Futaba, and the prefecture, we have to provide reassurance to the people of Japan. How can we do this? The measures that are required means that the current situation of the nuclear power plant must be recovered to a state where people can feel rest assured. Even as I speak, on the ground, people are working desperately to restore the situation. The people are working as technicians on the ground at the nuclear power plant. But the problem is radiation. That is the hindrance. People who are working there, the technicians, engineers who are working there, are no longer able to continue working there because of the radiation dose exposure. Even though the non-engineers are very smart, we're not going to be able to restore the site. To how to use the equipment, and the people who are knowledgeable about the equipment have to be there at the facility. Otherwise, we're not going to make any progress. We need to develop robots as well. It's been done in overseas countries, and this is going to be helpful. But the nuclear power plant has been pursued as a national policy. So these engineers must be nurtured by the responsibility of the national government. So people in the power utilities as well as research centers must work together to secure the resources and provide an environment where they can work safely and provide the manpower as well as engineering capability. This should be the responsibility of the national government. Perhaps have a rotational system. But as early as possible, we want to make sure that the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant will be placed under control. We have to accelerate this process. And this is what I urge of you to the national government. And beyond that, the specialists can get together. Japan is an outstanding country in terms of technological prowess. I'm sure that this can be placed under control, but we want to expedite this process as much as possible. So I ask for the NAIIC members to make the appropriate proposal to the national government.
Thank you. Regarding your comment, was about the deterioration caused by the aging of the now operating nuclear power plant or the other nuclear power plants, and also concerning the shortage of engineers and technicians that we will inevitably face with. You would like to make sure that the government will address those issues. To bring the nuclear power plant under control, I think that you wanted the government to make sure that they would supervise all the process. Any other comments? In the very first row, the lady, please. I'm from Otozawa, about 2.6 kilometers away from the nuclear power plant. The dose level is highest in the Bay Area. My name is Kakinuma. The members of the NAIIC, I wanted to say the following, and I definitely had to say this. That's why I dare raise my hand. I think it was at the end of June or July. DPJ, Democratic Party of Japan, the project team member of the nuclear power plant accident handling, the member was invited, and we said 3 months have already passed, so we really would like to know the truth. That's what we said when we invited that person. On the March 11th, I think it was around the evening, the power supply vehicles were arriving. So by 9 or 10, once they could actually provide power, it would be okay. That's what I heard. At the gymnasium center, sports gymnasium center, I was evacuated, but even after 10 p.m., there was no report. So I thought that, perhaps that power was actually restored, so it's okay. I felt at ease, I felt relieved, but on the following morning, 5:30 a.m., it was getting the light, and I wanted to go back home, and I wanted to tidy up the home. I went outside, and then I was told to evacuate. All of you must evacuate, and I thought, we already evacuated here. Where else do we need to go? I said. But the people from the fire brigade, they didn't know anything. They didn't know anything, but they said just move to the west, move to west. We were still waiting for a bus. They didn't arrive, and then those of you who can use your own cars, just move to west. So we went back home. We were in a mini car, and so we wanted to use a larger vehicle, and then where to? About the west to the west, and then they said that just go over the mountains, So I thought maybe it's because the nuclear power plant power supply car didn't work. So we were headed to Koriyama. We were on the national road 288, and then I could see self-defense force vehicles, jeeps. They were arriving. They were wearing gas masks. They were in protective gear. They were arriving. It was more like a movie, just like a movie. So I said, I thought that unless you wear that kind of protective gear, one should not really enter into the zone. And I felt frightened. My husband and I were headed to Koriyama. And on TV, I was able to see what happened after the explosion. But regarding the announcement, they always said explosion-like thing occurred, and there was leakage, so explosion-like event or leakage. So I said that the following to the member of the DPJ: I don't want to know those fictitious things. I want to know the truth. So we invited the member, and then the person said, why the power supply vehicle couldn't offer the power supply. After the total power shuts down, the power supply vehicle is the last resort. How come it couldn't provide the power? People said unexpected, but at the time it was really not unexpected at all. The socket didn't match. Its electric outlets, the shape of the electric outlets was different. It was not compatible. That's why it didn't connect. And that led to the total disaster. And after I heard the following story concerning Unit 4 had explosion moving downwards. About the Unit 4 explosion, I said we didn't hear about that. We were not informed. Then there was an explosion moving downwards, and the platform is now in a dangerous situation. Was in dangerous situation, so it was reinforced. That means so, and the member said that they were also very scared until the reinforcement would be completed. So those dangerous things were not communicated to us at all, not at all. And given that, and given all the things that have happened so far, I'm not originally from the community. I actually had it later. There's a monitor system, so-called monitor system. For every few years, the TEPCO would give us the full tour of the power plant, and the participants of the monitor tour, they could see the rusty piping, the pipes getting rusty, red with rust. And then they asked this question: if they are hit by a huge earthquake, what could happen? And they would say, we have a defense in depth, so don't worry, we have a defense in depth. And there used to be the power supply.
It is multi-layered. So, but on a day-to-day, the activities are so very difficult. And Director Yoshida has been explaining when he was the person responsible in a different department, and that he gave the instruction that it should be brought down. So Mr. Yoshida knew everything. So I'm sure he must have been prepared. That it was up the hill, then it was no problem. But the power supply vehicle, if they had the matching sockets and plugs, then no meltdown would have happened and no explosion would have happened. And thinking about those, the national government even didn't know that. Even the national government was not informed by TEPCO. The information was hidden by TEPCO, I believe.
We have more than 50 odd units here in Japan. But as we look at them, they all look the same. They involve the people from the community, and they keep saying, it's safe, it's safe. But in reality, they are always hiding things away from us. So in this country, nuclear power plant is not for us, it's not good for Japan, because the information is always kept hidden. And one after later, in retrospect, people will say, actually, this is what happened, in retrospect. If we had all of those things later, we cannot recover the lives we used to have. Disclose information. I think that's that kind of the attitude must be stressed more by the national government. We are still investigating this accident. We still have 50 odd units, and this lesson must be learned. That's why I dare to share my comment with you. But regarding the true picture, must be investigated. And I really would like you to validate the investigation results.
Thank you very much. So we were able to hear in person directly your views and your experience in how you have evacuated. Any comments from the members of NAIC? Now, what we are discussing, all the commissions, the meetings have been made public. And previously, we have invited the previous president of the NISA as a witness. And whenever a restart is to be made, what should we think about the standards for the testing, the review? And perhaps you will be able to read over the internet that we have made remarks that we have some doubts. We still question the criteria and standards for restarting the nuclear reactors. So to the Diet, how can we be able to share the message through the Diet with the Japanese people who are thinking about this? In France, there isn't the law or to provide transparency for the nuclear power plants. And various measures that have been implemented. And one thing of a good reference is that the local information provision, the committee. And France has 57 nuclear power plants. And the utilities, the licensees. And in case of France, it would be the EDF. And those people are included in the committee and have discussion at least twice a year. And on average, 4 times a year. The committee has the meeting, and I have interviewed those people. There are the people for the nuclear and also against the nuclear. Everyone is included. And they are fully acquainted, and they will be able to be very frank in airing their views. And all the necessary information will be provided to the utilities and also be made public. And this is a system which would be of a good reference to all of us.
We would like to take as many questions as possible, so we'd like to move on to the next topic. Next question. But Nomura-san, Member Nomura, please. I'm sorry to intervene, but you have talked about the response of TEPCO that has been questioned by some, and specific examples were given. And therefore, I would like to respond to that. When we investigate this accident, the government as well as the administration like NISA and as well as AEC as considered. We are considering all these areas, and obviously TEPCO is also within the scope of our investigation. Within our facilities, we have a room available to us. And we are thoroughly investigating the materials available at TEPCO on their premise. We are making these investigations and we are listening to them. And according to what TEPCO people have said to us, there is a logical response that is provided to us. But whether it is truth or not has to be elucidated by people like yourselves. We have to listen to the people who have talked to them, who have witnessed the incident as well. So one party may be lying, and we are not going to blindly accept that as truth. What is most important in this process is to listen to the people who have experienced this ordeal, and for you to tell the truth to us. So in that regard, on our website, we have information that can be accepted. And we also have Ms. Hajiska-san, who has lived in your community. So whatever you think of, you can think of, please convey your message to us, even though you may consider this is minor. We will take all these factors into consideration in conducting our investigation.
Thank you very much. Any other questions or comments? To the right, in the second row, the gentleman, please. About 3 kilometers away from a nuclear power plant I used to live in. My name is Kanazawa. This is what I'd like to share with you. The NAIIC is here with us. And this is what I would like to share with you. The mayor already spoke, and also from Nogami unit, that was Mr. Shima. I also listened to his comments. If possible, we really want to go back home. We want to go back home. If that's possible at all, that's number one. I can't really remember when the investigation commission was established. I think that was about last autumn. And the person from the investigation commission, I don't know whether he said this or not to the Prime Minister, but the Prime Minister said that now accident has been under control. And I heard that when I was watching TV. And the investigation commission, with what kind of investigations, with what kinds of investigations? And about Area 3, where residents will face difficulty in returning in a long time, and Area 2, residents aren't permitted to live, and there are those 3 or 4 terms that are difficult for me to even just pronounce. With which point, as the center, with what kind of a compass, with TEPCO's nuclear power plant as a center, what kind of a line did you draw a line? And how was it decided in which zone, each area, the residents are allowed home to go back or not allowed to go back? Because of damage compensation issue, I think it was decided. This is my personal opinion. Don't do that. By the unit of a village or the administrative unit of the village, one can go back home or one cannot go back home. Decide that and then come up with appropriate compensation, damage compensation. That's my request. And another thing is, as for the investigation commission, I understand that the commission has been engaged in various investigations, but what about the percentage of those who can return? I don't really know whether that figure is available, but using questionnaires, something, I would like you to come up with those numbers. Unless the young people go back, the population will never increase. Even the people return, if they're aged people, elderly people die. And then the community will become depopulated. So I would like you to come up with investigation, thorough investigation, so that the young people can go back home and ensuring safety. This is my request. Thank you.
Thank you very much. On this particular question, please. Sorry for taking the floor several times, but for your first point, that the national government, the Prime Minister have stated that it is in the cold shutdown. I don't think he mentioned that it is under control. I think he said that it is under cold shutdown. Now, that was not our own committee. There are several the research committees, so perhaps many people misunderstand that investigation, the committee has made investigation, and as a consequence of that, the government has made that statement. But actually, there are several investigation or the research committee. That is to say, there is a government investigation committee under the Cabinet Office. And so there is an investigation committee under the government. The government commissioned the committee. And they have made an investigation, and they have come up with the interim report. And based upon the interim report, Prime Minister has made the statement that the reactors are now under cold shutdown. Now, let me explain the character of our own commission. Apart from the administration, the government, there is, of course, the Diet, the legislature. And the Diet, from time to time, they will ask the questions of the government to try to check on the administration as well as government agencies to try to provide oversight. And the Diet members thought that the accident that happened time is too serious to just leave it to the government to make the investigation. So they have passed through the law or in the Diet, and based upon that new law, the NAIIC was launched. So what we are investigating is just as you have pointed out, the content of the investigation as done by the government investigation committee, would that be suffice? Would it be adequate enough? Ever since the NAIIC has started, and immediately after that, the government has come up with a statement that the reactors are now under the cold shutdown. And Dr. Kurokawa has already said at the time that he cannot really understand that the government at this juncture would come up with such a statement. And with that statement, we have continued to hold the investigation. So the decision made by the national government may have been premature. That is the doubt we have in mind in continuing our own investigation. So what you have indicated towards the end of your comment, if you are to return to your home, what could be the potential? What could be the possibilities in the future? Not just those levels, but you mentioned about the distance, geographical distance, and what may be the percentage of people that are able to return? Could also the young people be able to return? And that you would like to have the NAIIC to make the recommendation. I am not really sure whether we are able to make adequate recommendation because we are still continuing our investigation. I don't think we can commit ourselves right now, but there have been two people who have made the same request, and perhaps this is shared by everyone here. So we would listen carefully to your views and go back and continue with our investigation and think thoroughly what we will be able to recommend to the government. Thank you.
Any further comment? We'd like to hear from someone who is somewhat younger, perhaps. The person in the brown jacket, please. No, I came from Kawasaki today. I'm from Kuma, 1st District. And the mayor was kind enough to evacuate us upon the disaster. But I understand that it just so happens that I was able to come because I was able to know of this meeting. But if there is a lack of understanding on my part, there could be other such opportunities as well. Because in this disaster, we have been dispersed nationwide. If these opportunities are available, it should not just be limited to Fukushima. I hope that meetings of this kind will be held in other locations as well. It just so happens that 1 week ago, I was told that someone told me not to come near her because I have evacuated from the nuclear power plant accident. She was an old person with gray hair, and she told me not to come close. I have been surveyed, I have been received a test, but some people still have discrimination, feeling of prejudice against people who have been exposed to radiation. So various views have been expressed today about in terms of zoning as well as for damage compensation as well as radiation dose. Information is fragmented from the national government because it comes from different ministry. We are getting contact from the Ministry of Environment and others. And if it's regarding national road, highway road, we have to go to MLET. We want to ask TEPTO to pay in terms of, but there is psychological impact, and then it could not be paid. So I want to know the truth. I want to be convinced. So for 1 year, I have been pursuing different avenues. But now, in Cabinet Office, the reconstruction agency has been established. So it has been integrated, but it's still fragmented. Even though organization was set up, and the age is also diverse, and everyone is dispersed everywhere. They have evacuated to different locations, and this is very good. But we hope to have information made available on the website, and I know that efforts are being done, but some people are not able to use that, and we were not able to take these belongings with us until August or September. So we only took the immediate belongings that were necessary for our livelihood. And you can tell for everyone, people are asking to show, but that's not people are asking to look at this information, but sometimes it's not realistic. And this information is not just limited to municipal governments, or it could not be just a prefecture, or where perhaps you can do it in Kanto, in Tokyo, or Kanagawa. I'm in Kawasaki now. It could be Ibaraki. And it's not as so. We think that information should be available to everyone, not everyone having to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning to participate in such a meeting.
So ungrounded discrimination against the evacuees was also shared by you. Thank you. Concerning that about radiation and radioactivity, the understanding level of the people is really not adequate. I think that's part of the reason why there is that kind of a discrimination. There's nobody who has radioactivity attached to all over the person. If that was the case, that it could be understandable, but you are not like that, evacuees. Wherever you are, away from your home, so that you wouldn't be subjected to such discrimination, I want everyone to have adequate knowledge. It cannot be transmitted. It's not contagious. It cannot be. Evacuees are victims, and that kind of an ungrounded discrimination really add insult onto injury. And I would like to really see the stop of that kind of a discrimination. Thank you.
Yes, person in the front row who has been continuing to raise his hand. Thank you very much for designating me. I used to live in Kuma, first district. My name is Takahashi. On the day of the accident, the 11th of March, I was at the Okuma Junior High School. I was the deputy chairman of the PTA. On March 11th, the earthquake and tsunami hit us. And that was also the commencement the day for the junior high school. At the 2:46, the earthquake hit. But still at the junior high school, the children they were resolved to overcome the disaster, and they still had hope that we were able to overcome the earthquake and tsunami, that we did have some light of hope ahead of us. But the hope was shattered on the 12th of March. Without that accident, if the accident didn't happen, the 12th of March, for the children, that was a day when the entrance examination results were to be announced for the senior high schools, and the children would have had great hopes for their future. So the graduation day, and they were trying to say goodbye to their dear friends, and will say goodbye to their old school. And on the next day, they were awaiting the announcement that they will be able to enter the senior high school. So this would have been the most happy day, the happiest day for the children. It should have been such a day. I have two daughters. One of the graduate who were attending the commencement the ceremony at the junior high school. But her senior high school was already decided, and she wanted to go to see the poster which announced the students to enter into senior high school with her closest friend on the 12th of March. Then we had to evacuate. But to us, at the very bottom of the information network, no information was coming. The only information available was through the television. That all the electricity, the telephones, the water supply, everything were down. Even our cell phones were down. The only source of information was the PA system for the disaster announcement from the municipal government. But some speakers, loudspeakers, that have been destroyed. and no announcement was made. But for Okuma town, there were the radio receiving terminals, one such unit per the house. And the batteries were still alive for our unit. And we were able to listen to the announcement by the municipal government. And the information about the nuclear power plant was also coming. But only the information that the municipal government was able to receive. And in some cases, no PA system was working outdoors. And the radio for the wireless communication, some didn't have the batteries. So they were not able to get the relevant information. For 6 years, I was with the self-defense force. And thinking about the emergency, I had the in-house the power generator. And I was able to watch the television. And I saw that self-defense forces were coming in. There were the first unit of the chemical physical protection. And NBC, the nuclear, the biological and the chemical weapons that were to be handled by that unit, so SDF the unit, which meant that if the unit, the troop was coming, it meant that a very serious thing was happening. That's truly a crisis situation. And that the chemical physical protection, the team was here, meant that the level of the radioactivity should have been taken as properly as the data already. And where did the data go? Who was informed of such data? In Otakine, there is Air Self-Defense Force radar base is established. And this is about 30 kilometers from the nuclear power station. So they should have received the data. And what happened to such data? We would very much like the NAIC members to see such data. That self-defense forces were coming into the nuclear power plant. And some were wearing the protective gear, the protective masks. So I'm sure they would have been already provided the data in advance so that they were prepared to go inside at a very highly risky at the place. Of course, I do understand fully that there would be state secrets, but still, it is a diet. And also you have national civil servants who have been given mandate by the people, and they're supposed to execute their mission properly, and they should be held responsible and be responsible to the people. But only information coming to us was minimal. So who made the decision? Perhaps just a handful of people had the information. And only the instruction given us was go west, run west. And we had to grab what was really close by and just run. According to the announcement by the government, they wanted to avoid panic. But were we panicking? Don't we have the wisdom? The National Highway number 288 to run to the west. All of us evacuees were choosing the left lanes. Nobody, even just one vehicle, were running on the right lane, which is trying to pass over the other vehicles. There was no panic at all. Didn't the politicians believe us? They didn't trust us. The Tomioka town, the people, they were evacuating to Kawachi, the town, and the Namiya town people were evacuating through the number 114 National Highway and also running to the west. I never heard from anybody that they were going reverse on the right lane they were behaving in a very orderly manner. They have had the right lane free of cars so that self-defense force or the fire department or the police cars that could run. speedily. There was no panic at all. Everybody knew that this was how it should be done properly. Now the consequence of this eventually would be made clear. But for our generation, whilst we are alive, we must think about our children and grandchildren, posterity, 100 years from now, 200 years from now, who are not born yet. I hope that they would believe that what we have done would have been something superb for them. I hope that you would come up with such a splendid report from NAIC for the future generation, for the younger generations, that we have done our best, and you should do your best to come up with the best report ever. Thank you.
Thank you very much for speaking out with so much courage about your painful experience. Mr. Tanaka, please. Thank you very much for your words. No, I talked about panic, and I did mention this. And people who have expressed their thoughts from Okuma said that this mistake should never be repeated. And you urged us that this should never be repeated. Now, regarding this issue of panic, I have been involved in research and development for a very long time, but once I became a member of NAIC, I have come to know areas that I'd never experienced before. And people who are involved in nuclear power plant have said that accidents do occur. This was shocking to me. And regarding panic, I have learned that this is elite panic, the so-called elite panic exists. Panic of elites. In a critical situation, the inhabitants, people who are so-called elites, think that inhabitants will be in panic, and that's the reason why they try to hide important information. And in fact, this has been repeated over and over again in history. Now, even in the current circumstances, you said that there was no one in panic. It is important that you convey that. And Member Yokoyama has talked about the example of France. If there is a relationship of trust, that it will be useful. And there are countries that have already been able to realize this, and I'm sure that such instances exist here in Japan as well. As mentioned during the Commission meeting, we have to consider seriously the proposals for the future so that we will not repeat this mistake. And the fact that inhabitants, citizens who are not subject to panic is going to be very useful in the report formulation going forward. And in fact, it is elites that are prone to fall into the panic. And since they are so prone to fall into panic, I believe that they think that others will as well. And that is being reported. And I think this is a very good example to this point.
We have a limited amount of time available now, but I still see some hands up in the air. We would like to receive as many questions as possible. To my right, in the very back. The person in the black shirt, please. My name is Nishiuchi. In the first part of today's meeting, in the NAIIC meeting, I think that theme and my personal feelings are actually overlapping to a great extent, so I wanted to say something. What triggered me is the following. In Fukushima, there was a person called Sato Yuhei, Governor Sato. Right after the accident, he wrote articles, he talked about several things. And he was betrayed by the national government and by TEPCO. And that was a trigger. Can we really say that? Can he really say that? Can we really say that? I gathered as much material as I could collect. And while it was rather difficult to collect information, I also did the investigation on my part. And then I wanted to validate what I had, and as much as possible, I was engaged in activities, but what I could get was really disastrous. Because nuclear power administration in Fukushima, it was in such a sorry state. It's in such a sorry state. That's my conclusion. This might be a risky statement, unlike the governor's statement before. But regarding the justification, well, I must really share with you the justification, and I would like to be as quick as possible. Let me share this with you. There are 3 issues. First, the prefectural nuclear public relations activities, and there is a certain issue there. Secondly, as Mr. Oshima mentioned, about the safety agreement. Has that operation been adequate? Number 3, Mrs. Akiyama mentioned before this about crisis management. First, the nuclear power generation related public relations activities. The prefectural PR activities' purpose is to enlighten people, the citizens, on nuclear-related knowledge. There is the PR called Atom Fukushima. I don't really know the scope of the circulation or distribution, but Atom Fukushima is used, and also lectures are given by experts, and citizens are allowed to see the nuclear power plant, and their impression is often carried out in that the newsletter for PR. As I reviewed what has been written, in a nutshell, the safety and the necessity of nuclear power has been emphasized. And some of you may be here, but I'm sorry to say this, but it's been very biased. I cannot really call it fair or equitable. The true PR activities, of course, it's been done by the company. It has to be objective, it has to be reliable and scientific, and it has to be fair, and that kind of information must be provided. And regarding my statement, I'm trying not to be arbitrary. I don't have any political background, and I try to be as objective as possible. And that the approach should have been pursued. However, by Fukushima Prefecture, there has been so much emphasis on safety. We, the innocent, the residents, our understanding might be actually influenced by them. I have all these materials with me at the moment. Can be described as manipulative information. Atom Fukushima, the basic knowledge concerning nuclear power, it has been repeatedly stated. And we've been talking about safety myths, and there are 5 barriers in nuclear power plant, 5 barriers. Some people call that defense, but because of 5 barriers and natural radioactivity, we are subject to natural radioactivity, and one doesn't have to worry about the radioactivity from nuclear power plants. It has been actually expressed by the national government, but actually the quality is different. But they just compare the volume, and then if they say it's no problem, I think it's rhetoric. In the pool thermal power generation, there are still certain problems because it's difficult to control. And plutonium-239, 339, again, this is an issue and has been actually distributed to many places. Many places one cannot deny the possibility of developing lung cancer. And those possible issues have not been mentioned at all.
And there is the brochures and pamphlets remaining for the nuclear power support group. I should say that this is totally subjective. So it says all sort of the things which are improper, that it is the integrity is intact. Whatever happens, whatever degree of earthquake happens, that of course I do fully understand the necessity of the energy resources and so forth. But as the nuclear power plant operates, the rosier future is for us waiting in the future. But the rosy future is only for the handful of people, not for us. And we are in a very dire the straits. So what about this deception is I would like to question. Now, for those people who would like to publicize about the nuclear power plants, I do fully understand their position. And the national government would not like to see so much anxiety to be felt by the residents, and that other people should not be overburdened by the too dark a picture. I can understand what they're thinking, but it's not fair at all, is my point. Now that the accident has happened, we can now say, and we are so angry, as it shouldn't have been like this. The Governor Sato is not in a position to be angry. Everyone but forgotten we should be angry at Governor Sato. Everyone thought that it was quite safe. And we believe that because it was the prefectural government who had publicized this. And the prefectural government had a hand in the conspiracy, if I may say so. Now, if the similar situation is seen in the other municipalities where the nuclear power plants are also sited, if the situation is the same, this is a violation of human rights. And this is deviating from democracy. This is the moral issue, ethical issue. So what should be the proper way of public relations by the prefectural government? I would like to question this point. This is my first point. I'm sorry for pressing. I'm sorry, but time is running. So if you could be very brief, please. Now about the safety agreement, whether it has been properly implemented or not, unfortunately, I must say it was not properly implemented at all. The Osaka Ishin no Kai that has been contending that the safety agreement should be concluded with all the municipalities and local governments within the 100-kilometer zone. But without the true soul the being imbibed into the agreement, just having the agreement alone would not be sufficient enough. It is just a paper. So unless you have the heavy the soul imbibed into that, for instance, 20 days before the pool thermal, the process that has been started at its operation, the same thing happened. And this was mentioned in the television program by NHK. NHK was quite worried that very basic things are not being actually minded by the prefectural government. Prefectural government says that this is a human error, but it's not a human error, it's a system error. If you just clicked on the screen of the PC, you could have had the good control. I'm very, very sorry. I have to apologize. But if you could go directly to point 3. This is about crisis management. As Dr. Sakiyama mentioned about the drills for disaster preparedness, how properly were the drills being conducted? For the past 2 times, I have read the record of the drill. I was not there present, but it seems that it was too formalistic. So that may be the reason why we have seen such a confusion this time. The problem is the iodine tablets that they had to be distributed to the people. Was that included in the drill? I didn't find that in the record. The children, in order to avoid any thyroid exposure, that the iodine the tablets are to be distributed, the procedures that cannot be readily seen from the scheme behind the drill. So as a consequence, for Okuma Town, the children were not provided. But in some municipalities in the neighborhood, for Tomioka Town, Kauchi Village, Miharu Town, Naruha Town, Futaba Town, they did distribute the tablets. I'm not really sure whether children have taken them, but the problem It is not the municipality's responsibility. It's the prefectural government, and also primarily the national government is to be blamed. So these are the problems. I am so dissatisfied and mad. Thank you very much for your valuable input.
Next, we have to give Governor Sato should reorganize his thoughts so that he can make appropriate proposal for the future. Now, the lady in the red jacket toward the front, please. Please be brief. I'm from Higashowan, a 3-kilometer radius. I was engaged in organic farming. For the farms, just organic certification is very, very difficult. For Fukushima Prefecture, we have been promoting organic farming. I want to make sure that we can continue agriculture. And for that purpose, we would like to have alternative land made available to us. Agricultural tools as well as storage and warehouse, it is registered the prefecture. We want to continue agriculture like we have done before, and we demand the alternative land to be provided to us by prefecture as well as national government. We want to have the damage compensation decided as quickly as possible. Otherwise, we are going to grow old and die before it is realized. Thank you very much for sharing with us this important area of agriculture. Member Sakurai, please. My name is Sakurai. Now, you mentioned the response of the prefecture government. And I'm sorry that you didn't have enough time to convey to us all your feelings. And regarding the response of the government as well as the other prefectural government response is subject of investigation. So thank you very much for giving us good reference information. You are also investigating, and we are also doing that as well. And all your factors, all the comments that you've made will be taken into consideration. Regarding the response of the government, national government, as well as local government. We will continue to investigate thoroughly. Now, since it's toward the end, I'm not trying to summarize, but I just want to mention that having listened to you, I don't know if it's appropriate to say this now, but the mayor as well as the town representatives have shared with us their views, and we have also had the opportunity to hear directly from the community citizens. And the town representatives as well as the citizens have shared with us this overwhelming viewpoints. We have not directly experienced this. And you said that by living with you for 1 week, we will understand better the plight that you are in. But I'm sorry to say that we cannot realize this. But we hear you clearly, and we would like to reflect that in our investigation. I'm sorry to be so abstract, but on our part, we will do our utmost. And you mentioned that internet, very severe remarks has been made regarding never nominalized ideas. But if you want to share your views, please feel free to put them forth to us. Because there are some areas that we don't realize. There are new perspectives that we are not aware of, and I'd like to ask for your continued cooperation.
Mr. Nomura, just one comment. There was a comment made from the you who are engaged in agriculture. I cannot give you the immediate answer concerning agriculture. Having said that, yesterday and today we have been here meaning other than Okumamachi, we had a chance to listen to the people from NAIIC town, and in Kazo City in Saitama Prefecture, town hall meeting was held, giving us an opportunity to listen to victims. But now I'm here. Your situation, as the evacuee has remained almost the same, that in a way the time has frozen and you are still awaiting for the solution. I can really feel that strongly. I'm so sorry to say this, but I live in Tokyo, and as I go back to Tokyo, and throughout Japan, people are less conscious about this accident. For many people, this is a thing of the past. So first of all, we must listen to more of you. And one of you mentioned that there are so many evacuees living throughout Japan, so we should really go there listening to the people scattered all over the world, all over Japan. Ever since the accident happened, in a way, time has frozen for you, and you are still waiting for the solution. I can really see that. And so that I can really put myself into your shoes when we devise our report. We would like to at least keep making efforts. Whether we can do so, if we just say such abstract things, then you might really think that we don't really understand the reality. But certain things become only clearer once we are here, and I could truly feel the heavy feelings that you had, and I would like to make sure that I take it to my heart. And whether we can come up with the recommendations, we don't know, but I could really would like to take to my heart that each one of you has your own issues. Microphone, please.
If we could just make a money transfer, it seems was commented from the floor. So the very last person who was also raising his hand, this will be the very last comment from the floor. My name is Sekiguchi. I'm living in Nogami. 10 years ago, I have retired, and I have moved from Tokyo to here. And I was looking forward to my retirement life, and I was living in peace until March 11th. In Umebayashi, I had the chicken, very special chicken, and my wife was enjoying the cooperative the activities with the neighborhood the wives as well. So until March 11, everything was fine. But then, as I was listening to the radio, and that something was happening with the nuclear power plant, and the Chief Cabinet Secretary, Mr. Edano, at the time, had stated that even though there was not immediate danger, that just to make sure these things must be done. At around 10 o'clock in the evening, that water levels have become lower. And Chernobyl and TMI, I have heard of those the events in the past, and if explosion happens, I thought that it would be serious. And at the 10 o'clock, together with wife, I went to Tokiwa Convenience, the parking space towards the direction of Koriyama City, and I was spending the night. And there were self-defense force vehicles and some the buses, the big coaches that were running on the highways, and I observed them. And from Koriyama, and I returned to feed my chicken. But then from Tokyo, from Kitakata, I moved to Koriyama right now. And I had to evacuate and then relocate and then evacuate once again. Somebody said earlier, we need to identify who is responsible. Now, I have mentioned about TEPCO earlier on. Looking at each individual, they're fine people, nice people, but collectively, the responsibility and the guilt of TEPCO is quite heavy, that they have dispersed and spread the radioactivity all over Fukushima, and they have made all those communities unlivable. Before the 11th of March, I hope that NAIIC would investigate this. On the 11th of March, after the tsunami came, and until the explosion happens, for the 24 hours, what they were doing, the NAIIC should investigate in detail, every detail, that just injecting water, and to have the nitrogen to try to dilute the gas. Even a small child can understand that. So if you could please properly investigate who was doing what. And the employees' education, it was sort of identical to the TMI accident. So if you are to join the TEPCO, you can read all the materials and reports which are being made public at the joining the company, the ceremony, such brochures should have been distributed, and everyone should have been fully that having the knowledge of the TMI, the lessons. Now, as the mayor has been saying, the municipal government they have been trying to respond in a unified manner for the zoning. So for what the mayor has been saying, as was mentioned during the television that program, but the residents, they have diverse views and trying to consolidate all the views of the residents. And what the mayor said, that you draw the lines for zones, and you said that this is the difficult area to return, or these are the areas that eventually the evacuation orders could be lifted. That the mayor is saying the certain things may not mean that residents do fully agree with him. Thank you. We have arrived at the time to end the town meeting. And I would like to thank all of you and thank you for the very valuable inputs. But lastly, I would like to ask the Chairman Kurokawa to say a few words. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for participating very actively in the town meeting. I was indeed very impressed. I'm sure the feeling is shared by all the other members of NAIC, even after the 1 year and more than the 1 year. You're still suffering, and I was able to feel immensely what is being written in documents and what you can say directly to us. The impact is really different. We were able to feel with our heart what you are going through. What you have told us today, we would like to sincerely to think through on your comments and try to meet your expectation in compiling our report. We are every day working hard, and we will continue to do so. Because this is the first time in the constitutional history of Japan, and within the 6 months deadline, we are to come up with the report. And there are all sorts of other constraints, but we are trying to work hard to try to respond to the expectation of the Japanese people. And during the 11th NAIC meeting, there were something that we have once again to be able to feel fresh. And there were many things that we have learned today. And this is the end of the town meeting. But once again, I would like to thank all of you for coming and attending. Thank you.